My name is Jordan Leroy Hansen, also known as Ledev, and I'm here to. I kind of had a week off because I was working on stuff and such, but I kind of wanted to get back into making what I feel like is a video of a deck I really wanted to try out. Now, to put this into context, over the weekend I actually saw a really cool deck that actually won kind of like the Japanese tournaments and such, which was a Chromatic Lantern style, Wilderness Reclamation style deck. And I kind of got inspired by that to kind of make my own variation of the deck that actually put Electro Dominance within, hopefully give it a spotlight within Standard. Because in Standard, it's been alright, it's not been great. But I just feel like with the Chromatic, kind of like using the template of that deck, I kind of wanted to give it a shot. Now, overall, Chromatic Dominance, what we do is we run first just some Llanowar Elves to help with early game ramp, as well as Growth Spile to help with early game ramp as well, to try to ramp into a Chromatic Lantern. Now, Chromatic Lantern helps us out because it gets us our lands to tap for any color, which, if us being a 4-color deck, can become very beneficial. We also put Deafening Clarions in here just as early game board wipe. Sure, it does kill our elves down, but if the board is oppressive enough, we just want to do it. Plus, the fact that it gives our creatures lifelink can help us significant if we get a really big creature out, such as, say, I don't know, a Hydroid Krasis or a Niv Mizzet. We'll get to that. Next up is Kimber's Insight, which is just used as a card draw engine. And the second main card of the deck, along with Chromatic Lantern, is Wilderness Reclamation. As many people who have been probably playing against the Sultai Reclamation decks, or even like a variety of Reclamation decks in the meta, it's safe to say this card is kind of absurdly powerful. It's a really good card. I put it in as a free of, not as a full playset, because really free is enough for what you want to do, because for this deck, at least if you can get one if or two of them out, two you're pretty solid, but one is just fine. And as people know, you kind of have the weird interaction with gate decks. With the not gate decks, blah. You can tell I've been playing a lot of gate decks recently. With the wilderness decks, you kind of have to do a weird interaction where you tap your mana, then let the wilderness reclamation resolve, untap, and then tap, which gives you a significant amount of mana, which we use for a variety of things. Sometimes it's to cast maybe another Growth Spiral, or cast a Chemist's Insight for more card draw, or use it for other mana sinks that we have in the deck. Frilled Mystic is there just as a pretty much a creature counter-based spell, plus it gets us board presence, and it's really hard to spell Pierce and negate this type of counter magic, which is really effective in the current meta, in my personal opinion. Plus, it gives you a blocker against more aggressive decks, which is nice. Precognitive, yeah, I always have a hard time pronouncing this. Precognitive Perception is in here as a one of, just as a way to, if we can have the turn, draw or even scribe for a lot of cards. Spells Window is kind of the fun inclusion in the deck, since it allows us to counter, as long as Frilled Mystic allows us to counter a spell, we could probably counter a very late game like Vivian, or maybe a very high powerful card that can be countered. No, can be countered. And if we can actually create a lot of treasure tokens, which we can also use for mana sink. Tristani Discordance in here to help us just essentially get a good board presence. It helps us also to the one relevant part that people always forget, other than the creature boost, other than the token generation, is that ending clause where at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. That is actually very relevant, especially in a meta which runs a lot of FIFA sanities. Like, the factor that if someone steals your creature with, say, I don't know, either mind control, variety of stuff in the meta, the fact that you can play a Tristani Discordant to get your stuff back, like get your Krasis back and all that stuff, or even get back any other creatures that have been stolen by a variety of effects, that is actually very relevant in this meta. We also put our main victory condition in the deck, which is Niv Mizzet Paran. Just can't be countered. Really good card. The factor that it interacts with our spell interactions as well to allow us to draw a card and deal damage. This can be just pretty much a finisher. Now, I'm going to get to the main point of the deck, which is Hydroid Krasis, which helps us also to be a mana sink, allows us to draw a lot of cards, gain a lot of life, and just be a big, intimidating creature. Sure, it can be easily stolen with the variety of stolen effects in the meta, but that's why Tristani Discordance in the deck. We also have another mana sink, which is Expansion Explosion. Same thing here. we can use Explosion to deal a significant amount of damage to a creature and draw a lot of cards. Expansion sometimes is very useful, especially if like you need to do a turn 2. Let's say someone tried to fodder erasure you. You can fodder erasure them and make their hand compromise as well. So that's always something to keep in mind, even though you want to be very cautious in this deck to use it for that, since that's a one-of. And the main mana sink for the deck, and the one that I find really, really cool, is Electro Dominance. Now, why did I put Electro Dominance in this deck? Well, it's because I kind of came to the conclusion that if you can get, say, at the very least, one Wilderness Reclamation out on the board, and you have enough mana for it with like 4 mana, you can, in theory, with Electro Dominance in hand and Niv Mizzet Paran, you can, by just turn 4-ish to even turn 5-ish in some circumstances, most realistically turn 5, but sometimes if you have like a Chromatic Lantern out and all that, sometimes by turn 4 or 5, you can actually use this, pump like 6 mana into it, or realistically 8 mana into it if we include the additional 2 red, remove a problematic target, which in this case can be a Planeswalker, which is relevant, or a very problematic creature, and then actually bring out a very powerful creature, such as, oh hey, Tristani Discordant, or a Niv Mizzet Paran. So, in a sense, thanks to Electro Dominance, we're kind of making these cards, in a roundabout way, into a very cool kind of Ravenous Chupacabra-like effect. But worst case scenario, it's also just a big burn spell they can deal to the opponent face and actually win for that. I also put in here another Etz instant spell, which helps us against the burn matchup since we're going to put this in best of 1. Sanguine Sacrament. This is also another really good mana sink ability. Just the factor that if your opponent thinks they got close to like you're at 6 life, the fact that you can use Sanguine Sacrament to essentially just, while Wilderness Reclamation, get a lot of mana before you instep, Sacrament, and gain like, there's some circumstances where I gain like 18 life. It's a very absurd one-of card, and the fact that it gets put on the bottom of the opponent's library does help against mill strategies. Unless this gets milled, then you're in trouble, but yeah. The only one card I debate about putting in here is also Mission Briefing, but I'm still in the tweaking phase of this deck, so who knows, maybe or maybe not. As for the land base, I put 2 Memorial Geniuses in here. They are tap lands, but I do like them since, you know, with Wilderness Reclamation on the field, it allows us to be able to sacrifice and draw 2 cards. And 2 Watery Graves, free Steam Fence, free Sulphur Falls, free Stomping Grounds, 1 Sunpetal Grove. Honestly, I would put more Sunpetal Groves in here, but I don't have them in my collection, at least in my Arena collection, so yeah. We put in free Temple Gardens, free Breeding Pools, free Hinterland Harbors, 1 Archer of Vraska, and 1 Detention Tower to, essentially, if people are running Carnage Tyrant-like cards or Hexproof-like cards, we can use Detention Tower to make them lose Hexproof and still be able to deal a lot of damage with Electro Dominance or Expansion or Explosion, or for Explosion if necessary. Anyway, I do have a sideboard for this deck, but as I said before, we're mostly going to test this deck for this video in best of 1 ranked, so let us give a shot with Chromatic Dominance. Shall we? Now, realistically, what I could probably do, though, for this deck as a tweak is I could probably cut 1 Electro Dominance out to put into a full playset of Llanowar Elves. But like I said, this is still in kind of the tweaking phase, and I still have that weird jinx where I don't really like to put a playset of a card in a deck. I know, it's a weird thing. It's kind of one of those, it seems like, the jinx I have with it is when I ever try to get a playset of a card in, I never draw it. So, it's a weird jinx, but it's something that I keep in mind. Okay, here, we have a Chromatic Lantern, we do have this, we do have this. While having 4 lands is kind of, I think it's a safe keep. And we just have to hope we're not against mono red, and we're good. But statistically, okay, we're not against mono red, so we are in the clear at the moment. So we're going to play Memorial the Genius, since we don't have a turn 2 play. It's always best to have tap lands like this to play it on a turn you know you're not going to have a play just to get it out. Okay, so it's Esper Heroes. Okay. So we're going to play a Sunpetal Grove, play out a Chromatic Lantern. That way now we can just play a land and then hopefully play our Tristani Discordant. But there is a chance that the opponent might be scared of the card and might just mortify it if they have the mana. It doesn't look like they have it. which is good on our part. Ooh, we have a choice here. We could play Wilderness Reclamation now. That way to scare the opponent into, if they get a Mortify, destroy this rather than steer the Chromatic Lantern. We could also just play this, play Tristani, that way we can have a defensive base unit. And then they have to be very decisive on how they want to use their... this is a hard one. I think the best play here is actually just to get Tristani Discordant out on the battlefield. That way, they have to be very decisive on how they want to use their Mortify. If they want to use it on the Chromatic Lantern, sure, it kind of stinks that we can't cast Niv Mizzet because of this, but I feel like this is a more relevant, plus it helps us prevent aggressive damage from the heroes, so... And I think my guess on there actually works. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Yeah, I think we just play a Niv Mizzet. We play a Niv Mizzet. We swing in for 2 to gain 2 life back. We'll see if the opponent has something up their sleeve. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, if the opponent has Mortify, they're probably going to notify the Niv Mizzet if I have to make a guess. There's the Niv. There it is. The reason why I didn't mind doing it this way is because then the opponent has to kill what they think is the most intimidating threat, which in this case was the Niv Mizzet. Plus we have a second one in the deck, so we're fine. Plus we have the aggressive token, so I don't mind this. Plus it allows us to give us a use to play Wilderness Reclamation. Now I'm going to pause, make sure I put the pause there. I'm going to swing in. Okay. Sure, we'll let that resolve first. We'll resolve it. Now, before we resolve this, I'm going to tap this for blue mana. That way, when we resolve this, and before we end the turn, what I'm going to do is, since we don't have any interaction, we don't have a counterspell and such, I'm just going to draw some cards. There we go. And hey, we can gain some life if we want to. Honestly, I would rather gain life once we know we have the maximal mana capacity to do that. And most opponents I see, pretty much if they're even in the aggressive type of deck, kind of concede once the Sageline Segment goes into play. But we'll see. Well, there's the Mortify, which we kind of saw coming, so we're going to resolve that. And honestly, we don't mind since we have a Wilderness Reclamation in play, so it's not the end of the world. So, we're going to do that. We're going to get in my turn. So let's see, let's do some math here. We played a Wilderness. I think I'm going to play this untapped. We're going to play the Wilderness Reclamation. And then make sure I pause at our end step. I'm going to swing 2. The opponent says nice. Probably saying nice about the Wilderness Reclamation. They kill the tokens. So then now we end the turn. We'll resolve Tristani first. And then we're going to tap mana. We're going to tap mana. And we can tap this mana at the moment. Then we're going to resolve that. Then we're going to tap mana. We're going to tap mana. Tap. 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 Which should give us 9 mana, which means we could gain 14 life. We resolve that. And now we're at 38 life. The opponent, unless they have like a revenge in their deck, is going to have a hard time coming back from this. Which is the point. Plus, we could also just, next turn, if they don't destroy the Wilderness Reclamation, we could just Explosion for a lot. So I think it's safe to say we got this game in the bag. But I'm not going to get too cocky because, well, things happen. Okay, so the opponent plays Thief, which, like I said, main reason why we're playing Tristani Discordant. Pretty much the primary reason, since people are playing Thief Dissanity to left and right. It's either that or Hostage Taker. Anyway, we're going to wait to see what our opponent does. Our opponent's thinking about attacking. They decide to skip the attack. We could be tempted enough and just Hydrocrasis. I don't remember a 2 mana in White Fog. So what I'm going to do pay this, then honestly, just swing in for 2. And they don't have enough mana for the Angel that helps protect him against burn-based damage like that, so I think we're good. So, pretty much one of the main finishers that can be for the deck is the following. We end the turn. Oh, wait. Whew. Almost forgot. I have to make sure I put that stop in there. Especially in the arena client. So we're going to resolve that first. And then we're going to do red, blue, blue, red. There we go. Then we resolve that. Then blue, green, red, 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 red. So that gives us about 15 mana, so we're going to deal 11 damage to the opponent. Did I do the math right on that? We resolve it, and good game. I'll be surprised if the opponent has an interaction. They did not. First win with this deck. Yay! Okay, we weren't able to show off Electro Dominance yet, which kind of stinks, but we're going to play another round. Okay, so... this one's a little fishy. We have both tap lands, but we have a Lenore Elf. It's a risky keep, but I'm gonna test it, just out of curiosity. It's a really tricky thing with lands that are very check land based. It's always not good to feel like pulling 2 of these check lands, because it's just like, ugh. I mean, it's not the end of the world, unless we're going to get some mono red, and then I think I regret keeping this hand, but, well, we'll wait and see on that one. Okay, so, black and white deck again. Okay. So we're going to play our Lenore Elf. We're going to play our check land. And then I think we will... Okay, so we're going against an Afterlife deck. Not bad. Okay, so we would have green, green, blue, blue. Honestly, while it's tempting to play the Chromatic Lantern now, I kind of actually want to hold on for the Frilled Mystic to counter what they're going to play next, potentially. That way, then, we could just Hinterland Harbor and then just Chromatic Lantern if we really need to. But we do have enough mana to hopefully counter what spell they tried to cast. Do we really want to counter in Johnny's Welcome? There's an argument. I think I let the Ajani's Welcome reside, because really what I want to counter is like an Ajani's Pridemate. Though I will take an Oligarch. Now, it could have been argued that I should have probably counted the Ajani's Welcome, especially since they will gain life, since we are going to initiate the trade there, and they are going to get a Spirit, which I would be problematic if we weren't factored that we have a Niv Mizzet coming up, so... Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm going to play Electro... Oh, not Electro Dominance. I'm going to play the Chromatic Lantern. Hope it doesn't get mortified. There is a chance it might get mortified. But if that is the case... Okay, it's not. The opponent's probably going to name Spirits. I'm going to make a logical guess. Called it. Anyway, this seems like a deck that probably runs Ethereal Absolution, if I have to make a guess. Now, the reason why I wanted to be... Well, we even got the land, we didn't really need it, but... The reason why is we'll end the turn now because we have just. Oh no, wait, it's 8 mana, you goofball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, worst case scenario, we can still precognitive dissonance. Or not precognitive perception. Ah, my brain today. We could also, just if the opponent doesn't have any interaction at the moment, just play the Niv Mizzet, save the precognitive perception. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got choices here, I'll say that. The opponent also got choices here, too. Okay, we are getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. I should have not let that entered in untap because I could just Electro Dominance and Precognitive Perception. But for now, 2 damage is not the end of the world. We'll be fine. Okay, so they're going to resolve another one, Radiant Destiny, which means their spirit is going to get a lot bigger. And we're going to have to take the damage. Owie, owie. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to let this enter in untapped. Then pass the turn. Because what I want to do is at the end of the turn, deal a lot of significant damage with Electro Dominance and Flash in a Niv Mizzet. That way we can use our Chemist's Insight to just draw and deal damage to problematic targets that we can't target. Okay, so it's a Pontiless Pontiff. Annoying, but not the end of the world. I would say we do want to target... Well, is targeting that significant? The problem is they have a 1 mana... Let's think about this. If they do just sacrifice and just give it indestructible, we don't mind because that requires them to sacrifice their token. However, if we target the token, then they will just sacrifice with the Pontiff, which would counter the spell. So it's best to actually, even if they give it indestructible, target the Pontiff, that way we can still flash in our Niv Mizzet. Because then we can just use the card draw to ping damage to it, so... Yeah, I think we got our game plan here. The opponent's deciding whether or not they want to attack in. I think. So yeah, we're going to pass into attacking. And then, before blockers, we're going to pay 6 mana. We're going to see if the opponent decides to sacrifice or let it resolve. If the opponent just lets it resolve, well, no, blocking this would still be kind of a bad idea, because if we do, there is the potential that they have the 1 mana pump, which then lets us go into a trade, which with Niv Mizzet being our main victory condition, probably not a good idea. We'll just see how our opponent interacts, because we're pretty much offering them a choice here. We're saying, do you want to keep this alive? Or do you want to sack the spirit just to keep it alive? Or do you want it just to let it die to keep the spirit alive? They decided to keep that alive, which allows us to cast Niv Mizzet for the low, low price of 3. And now we have to decide. Do we want to block and hope they don't have a 1 mana pump? I say we take the damage. Okay. Because no matter what, we're going to draw cards, we're going to deal damage to it, we're going to remove it pretty easily. See, we deal point damage. We resolve the spell. We deal point damage. We deal point damage. We'll play... Let's see, we have enough mana, so we can just play this tapped. I say we swing in for free at the moment. And we'll see and hopefully hope the opponent doesn't cast a removal spell first or cast a creature first. That way then we can just use... So yeah, they cast that spell. We're going to ping them, but before resolving that, we're just going to Chemist's Insight. Take out just a Shockland that we don't need. That way that gives us a card draw. We ping for a point of damage. We draw more cards. Then we can ping for some more points of damage. Ba-doop, ba-doop. It died, which, sad, but it happens. So, we're going to do that. And we got a lot of choices, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could just deal 8 points of damage and just get out our Niv Mizzet again. We could also just set up for a Spell Swindle. We could also just get a ridiculous Hydroid Crisis out. I think I like the Electro Dominance plan a lot more, because pretty much, unless under some very fringe circumstances, the opponent pretty much is dead. Because then we draw a spell, we can use Chemist's Insight, it's a finish, so we're probably going to go with that approach. Worst case scenario, if they play a very significant threat, we can just Spell Swindle it, which gives us a lot of mana. So they play that, and they're going to play a Type Taker. Yeah, we're just going to, before that resolves, cast that, cast our Niv Mizzet for free. Especially since if they even have a cast down, they can't target us as legendary creature, and we won. Woohoo! I love this deck. I really love this deck. Okay. We'll play one more match and then probably open a pack, but you kind of see now, if we have Wilderness Reclamation out, how Electro Dominance can be used to try to get Niv Mizzet out really, really early. And even if we just use it without Wilderness Reclamation, just to get Niv Mizzet out with Flash, is very significant. Okay. This is still a test hand, because I like it, because we have Growth Spiral to play an extra land. We have the Deafening Clarions, just in case if it's an aggressive matchup. Expansion is a little peculiar. I think we're going to keep this hand as a test. The opponent molds down to 6, I believe. Could mold down to 5. They keep the 6. We're going to enter and tap. And then we're going to see. So, Gruul, potentially? Yeah, we'll play the Llanowar Elf. And then we're probably just going to Growth Spiral. So, yeah. I think people can probably note the misplay I did there. What I should have done is put the Sulphur Falls in first. Then I could tap myself with the Temple Garden. That way I could have Growth Spiral in turn 2. That was a misplay. I'm going to admit that full-heartedly. But, it happens. So, we're going to Growth Spiral, see if we can get a land. We do not, but at least we get card draw, so it's not the end of the world. Ooh, this will be an interesting matchup. I don't know how we fare against this, so we need to read how this card works. So, whenever you cast, it deals 4 damage to everything, but 4, 5, 6 just deals 4 damage to a specific thing. I think I do tap myself, play Tristani Discordant. And the only reason why I'm playing that is once they play their big thing, they will want to target Discordant in theory, so we don't have the overall big effect. This is one of those matchups where I wish I had a Frilled Mystic. But even then, it doesn't matter that much because it's when it's cast, not countered, so yeah. All I'm just going to say is this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can deal just 1 point of damage and draw a card or expansion, but we could just also Chemist's Insight. What I'm going to do is swing in with my lifelink dudes, see if the opponent wants to block. It looks like the opponent doesn't want to block. We're going to just hold up Chemist's Insight or deal 1 point of damage with that. We had our options, so we'll see what the opponent plays. Yeah, there's the Carnage Tyrant. Goody. So, we know since they play Carnage Tyrant, that means it's going to deal 4 damage to all the things. So, we're just going to Chemist's Insight. And yeah, this is the reason why I put a 1-of Detection Tower in the deck. It's because of this. But the best news is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... we play a Temple Garden. We made sure we tap this. We made sure we tap this and just one red to play Deafening Clarion. Deal free. We resolve that. We do that again. Deal free. And we resolved at least our first Garnish Tyrant. Hopefully their last. We hope. We'll see. Okay, so, yeah, ow. One, two, three, four, five, six. We only deal 2 points of damage. Really, the only thing that can save us now is if we can draw into a Hydrocrisis. But even then, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do that. We have to play this untapped, and Hydrocrisis would be for 1. I still think the risk is worth it, though. Oof. Well, I think it's safe to say we lost. But hey, it happens. That was just a really good explosive hand. We'll say good game to our opponent. They had a really good starting hand. Plus, we had to use our board wipes against Carnage Tyrant. So, yeah, that was a good matchup. This is one of those where if I was doing a best of 3, I would probably sideboard in the Lyras and such. Or this is probably one where people will make the argument who's seen the deck at the moment would probably argue that I might need a main board the one card that I always forget the name of, the March of Multitudes, I think it is, because that's what some decks were running that I was getting the template off. I checked them out to do some testing of some other cards, such as the Thrilled Mystics and the Deafening Clarions and such. And the Electro Dominances, obviously, but I might put those in at least, at the very least, in the sideboards, just in case if I know I'm going to get some more, either going a wide base or more aggressive base matchup. But I do like Sagrain Sacrament a lot. Anyway, that is the deck. We'll just open up with a pack opening, which allows me to get a Mythic card, which is pretty nice. Let's see what we get. A rare. Nice. I can actually use that to craft something I need. So, overall, that is Chromatic Dominance. I hope you all have a lovely night. This is LiveDev, signing out.